1. The man with a fret saw. The house I used to live in was a kind of detached house form. Although the house was an open place, it would not be possible to break in even if someone climbed over the wall if the door was locked. However, the incident just happened one summer. Being tired of the hot weather, I just put a chain on the door and went to sleep without even thinking of an uninvited guest's invasion. Not long after, a weird sound began to be heard from somewhere at night. At the moment I opened my eyes to the sound, I saw a man cutting our door chain with a small fret saw in front of the door. I, who was terrified at that time, screamed loudly, but he didn't stop sawing. Surprised by my scream, my parents and older brother ran outside, and my brother, who was grabbing a golf club in one hand, yelled to the man, "What are you, man? Do you have a death wish?" Then the man smiled and said, "If this gets cut, you guys all die." Fortunately, the man was arrested by the cops, who arrived quickly, and we didn't suffer big damage though. But the memory of the day still scares me up to this day. 2. My dear, were you scared? I once had a big sleep paralysis while I was sleeping. Fortunately, I was able to wake up soon after, and I rushed to my mom's room with fear, and she hugged me. "My dear, were you scared?" Mom said to me like this as she patted my back, and I seemed to be relieved by her voice at first. However, I suddenly felt something was wrong. My mom began to ask the same question over and over again, scratching me on the back with her fingernails slowly but continuously. "My dear, were you scared? Were you scared? Were you scared?" 3. My missing friend. Today I went to my friend's funeral. It was really heartbreaking, maybe because he died absurdly with a month left before his marriage. So he was living alone in a studio apartment. He told me and other friends that he will travel to Europe by himself for a while before his wedding. When he said he wouldn't be able to contact us for a month, we all thought he was enjoying his travel. However, I felt something strange that he didn't come back after the day he had mentioned. We all felt anxious, so another friend ended up visiting his house and he was found dead in the bathroom. It turns out that while he went in the bathroom alone, his big mountain bike fell on the floor and it didn't open, and my friend was locked up for a month and dead like that. Even now, my tears still flow with the sadness lingered in my heart. I hope you guys, whoever read this, always be careful. 4. The woman in the restroom. Our school went on a trip to China for a vacation. We were supposed to go to one hotel as our lodging, but due to traffic problems, the reservation was canceled, having communication problems with the hotel. All the teachers were freaked out, and we had to gather at a nearby McDonald's waiting for about 2 hours. Meanwhile, our teachers were looking around for the other hotels, and there were available rooms in an old mansion-style hotel run by a Korean. Anyway, we were able to explain quickly since the owner was Korean and ended up staying for about a day. We unpacked our stuff, washed up, and fell asleep. But one of my friends kept waking me up that night. "Hey, can you go to the restroom with me?" However, since the hotel, which was different in structure from a regular hotel, it was difficult to find a restroom, and I was afraid to walk around this night, so I refused and just continued sleeping. The next morning, while we were checking out, she was constantly asking a question at the counter, and her face was turned deadly pale, so I asked her what she was asking about. "Friend, I went to the restroom alone yesterday, you know. It was too dark and scary, but I really had to pee. So I ended up finding the restroom and was sitting inside, and then I heard a Chinese woman said something outside. So I was thinking, oh, the other guest is going to use the restroom too. But then she only repeated one word, Zai Ming, like this. My poor friend got scared and thought for a long time whether to go out or not. Finally, when she ran out at once and there was no one there, she returned to the room in fear. After she calmed down a little, she then started to search for the word that she heard just before through the internet. But the results did not come out, so she had no choice but to sleep again. Eventually, she knew the word's meaning that she had heard in the restroom only after she went to the computer the next day and asked. What she said was, on top of you. The sound from the upstairs. My aunt once moved out to the apartment. However, the location was rural, and the apartment was constructed around there, so it was totally empty at that time any residents were coming in. Anyway, after my aunt and uncle had moved in, they began to hear footsteps from upstairs every day at dawn that seemed to be someone was walking around. It's not like just a few times. They heard it for the whole month. My aunt gradually started to get mad, so she ended up visiting upstairs, but there was no one in the apartment. Then she visited the security guard and asked, "Excuse me, is there a person living in that apartment?" "Well, it's probably an empty apartment yet." My mom told her that the thief, the beggar, or the stray cat might have come inside. So the next day, my aunt visited the guard again and told him about this. And he eventually went upstairs that night and searched the whole inside, but there was no sign of forced entry to the apartment. Nevertheless, the running sounds from upstairs didn't seem to stop and bothered my aunt and uncle. And my aunt, who felt something strange, ended up calling a shaman. When the shaman arrived at the apartment, she took a look around inside and calmly told her like this, "You must leave here. Move out to another place." "What are you talking about?" Being dumbfounded, she asked back as soon as she heard it. However, after hearing the shaman's next words, she changed her mind, and they eventually ended up leaving the apartment. So this is what the shaman actually said. "This is the sound of ghosts wandering around. But the problem is, it's not from the upstairs. This sound is from your ceiling, and it's walking around, hanging upside down." The amusement park. One day, one of the employees was preparing to close the ride in the amusement park. Then he saw two people coming in. "I guess you guys are the last." The staff led them to their seats, and the two, who appeared to be a couple, sat in a friendly atmosphere and said, "Oh, we are celebrating our 100th day anniversary." "Congratulations! What kind of anniversary is it? Date?" Operating the ride, he also said pleasingly, and at that moment when he turned around, the woman said to him, "No, the anniversary of our death." He immediately got goosebumps and blankly looked back at the place where the ride left. What kind of prank is that? However, to his surprise, there was no one on the ride when it came back. And when he checked the CCTV again, he only saw himself staring into the air, greeting and talking to himself, and operating the ride.